What is up, everyone? Welcome to Level 7. You're listening to the Agents of Fandom podcast. I am your host, TJ Zwarich. We are going to talk some San Diego Comic-Con Hall H predictions, a little bit of Ms. Marvel, and talk about our excitement for the upcoming series She-Hulk, which is less than a month away. I'm joined, of course, by my co-host, Garrett. Garrett, how's it going today?
It's going super good. We got a lot of exciting things to talk about, and some of the most important things on my mind we're going to talk about, but also it's hard to focus on these things because there's another important thing right in between San Diego Comic-Con and She-Hulk that we're going to be doing, and that's been the main focus of my mind. And that's me visiting you in Canada for your wedding.
It's getting close. I've kind of been trying to put it in my back burner of my thoughts because I was a groomsman in one of my close friends' wedding this past weekend, and now that that's done, we celebrated that. I'm ready to finish my planning mode and get fully into that. So yeah, it's gonna be excited. I can't wait for to meet you here, and we have a very special guest joining us today. This guest is someone that I watched on the Phase Zero podcast last week, and I was just blown away by his knowledge and his passion for Ms. Marvel and just fandom in general. Neebz, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. Thank you so much for having me, man. I really appreciate the kind words. I'm so excited. I'm like little old me getting invited to all these podcasts. I don't know how this is happening, but I'm super excited for the ride. I feel special.
I can tell you how it's happening. You've been the content you've been putting out for Ms. Marvel has just been spectacular. Like one of the ones I thought was so cool is how you touched on early in the episodes how um, Kamala in Urdu it means or Kamala I believe means marvelous, perfect in Arabic, and how that ended up coming to play in the last episode. That's something we're going to talk about more. And then when you're on these podcasts, you just absolutely crush it. So I don't think that's going to be
Thank
stopping anytime soon.
it's easy to talk about something you're really passionate about, right? Sometimes when you really care about something, you don't have to find the words find you.
There it is. That makes sense. That sounds like something that should have been in the show.
Yeah, exactly. That was a line and a half.
So thanks everyone for joining us for this live show today. If you're not catching us live, this is of course available wherever you get your podcasts. If you're watching the video version on YouTube, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, follow us on Twitch, maybe hit a subscription button. That'll help us out a lot. And we got a lot of really fun things coming. We next week we are going to have our second interview with Anjali Bhamani, aka Auntie Ruby. We're going to be able to talk about Ms. Marvel in depth, hopefully see if she has a future in the MCU, stuff like that. We are so excited for her to join us again. And this weekend, Saturday, from 4 p.m. Pacific to 7 p.m. Pacific, so that's 7 p.m. Eastern to 10 p.m. Eastern, we're going to do a live show for San Diego Comic-Con Hall H. You heard that right. 3 hours, an hour before, an hour after. We have so many amazing guests joining us. We got some of our friends from comicbook.com, including Aaron Perrine and Matt Aguiar. And I'm putting together the schedule tomorrow, and we're going to do the announcements. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I can't wait for that, and we have a fun, some fun things that you might notice about the stream. I won't say anything yet, but some maybe partnerships. You'll see. We got a lot of fun, and 3 hours sounds like a lot, but you know me and TJ, we love to talk, so we'll get it done.
Plus, the Marvel animated stuff is the day before, so the hour leading up, we're going to have a lot of things to talk about from the previous day. And then after, we're of course going to have to recap, and we're going to be keeping it fresh with tons of different guests throughout the show, including many of you who are hanging out in chat today. And the most fun part is, like Garrett said, we're going to be announcing some partnerships, and we're going to be firing out tons of live giveaways that I am very, very excited to be able to share with you. Before that, though, we don't know what's coming yet. There was rumored leaks for Hall H. They were disproven real quick. We don't know what's coming for Hall H. And my kind of understanding, this is just pure speculation, but I kind of am thinking Hall H is going to focus very specifically on the things that we've sort of already know are coming, heavily announced by the trades already. Give us a little more info on them. And then at D23, that's when we're going to get a lot of new announcements. Neebs, what do you think they're going to follow that strategy, and what do you think could potentially be coming here this weekend at Hall H?
Yeah, no, I definitely think they're going to do that because I think last time I went to D23, that's where they announced the She-Hulk and Miss Marvel and so many other shows that we were not expecting. Moon Knight, they came with like a big list. So I think they're saving it for their own thing. It makes a lot of sense. But I think like Quantum Mania, Black Panther, stuff that we know is coming out soon. I think we might get a little bit. I think they might focus on the movies a little more here, and then maybe on the shows a little more on D23. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And I think Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, and Quantumania are probably going to be the big first looks we're going to be getting. Maybe a little announcement with Jonathan Majors for Quantumania, and then our first trailer for Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. What do you think, Garrett? Would you have any early predictions for SDCC Hall H?
Yeah, I'm gonna go. I'll chuck out one safe bet right now, and I'm gonna say like an Eternal sequel. We know that's coming.
I would love that.
We
I
know we
would
got
love
Harry,
that.
my boy, my man Harry Styles in the MCU now. Love that guy. Give him a shout out. Come on the podcast, please. I would love that. But we got some Eros coming in the MCU, so I think that's a pretty safe bet that we know is going to come eventually, or who knows, maybe it'll be a series. I don't know. But Shang-Chi 2 seemed like it got a sequel like fairly quick, and Eternals nothing yet. So this seems like
Yeah.
a fairly logical time to announce that to me.
Yep, I think that makes sense. And call I like there in the comments. We got our guy MTF who writes, of course, for Murphy's Multiverse, and he's going to be joining us as well for a portion during our stream on the weekend. And he brought up he thinks Charlie Cox could potentially be there, and I think that would be cool if they maybe gave us a little tease from the She-Hulk show, showed us a quick scene of Matt Murdock and Jennifer Walters together. That would be pretty interesting as well. Neebs, do you have any kind of dark horse pick? Something you think they could announce this weekend?
One of the things that I thought would be really cool is that if they announced that like Jessica Jones might be in something, because I think there were some rumors about that going on, and that would be a really cool thing to really see. And I know the Echo stuff is rumored too, and I think a lot of people are excited about Echo. I'm someone who really cares about representation, and I'm really happy for like the indigenous community and the Latino community to get like some representation. So I hope like Echo comes out and we get a little bit of like news about that.
And the deaf community as well,
Yeah, too, absolutely.
and amputee. Yeah, it's a lot going on there, and it's going to be an awesome show. I'm super excited for that. That's high on my list of shows.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Echo's one that I'm very excited about, and it's funny. We talked about they're probably going to focus on movies, and then all of us are like, yeah, ooh, but we want to hear about this show, and we want to hear about this show, and we want to hear about this one. I think the one thing we can really lock in is we're going to be getting a Black Panther Wakanda Forever trailer. They've been giving us one trailer kind of right after the last movie comes out. That's been a bit of a pattern recently, and this is the next one that's coming to theaters now that Thor: Love and Thunder is out there. So that's something I definitely think we're probably going to get. Tell us in chat, what else do you think we could be getting? Thank you to our guy Brandon Moore, who's getting subs in the chat right now. We are one sub away from a hype train. I love these live shows when everybody gets all hyped up in the chat. So if you think there's going to be something coming, we got the Screen Sisters in chat talking about maybe more news on the Okoye and Wakanda show. That would be very interesting, especially with Black Panther Wakanda Forever coming up. Maybe some Thunderbolt stuff with that in there as well, but to be determined. It's going to be an exciting weekend.
All right. I know we said, maybe D23 is going to be some big things. I don't know if this is a super dark horse, whether it's San Diego Comic-Con or D23, but what do you guys think about maybe a West Coast Avengers project?
I think that's very cool. Like, I almost kind of think that the Young Avengers might become the West Coast Avengers. We got Kate Bishop already having, we know, big comic ties to LA. We have Cassie Lang already being in San Francisco. I could
Oh
kind of
yeah.
see that kind of becoming one and the same. So I do like that ties. Cap 4 is another one I think we're going to get talked about here this weekend. And I think the big one is we're finally going to get or not the big one, but another one that I think is a lock is I think we are finally going to get the official announcement of the Halloween special with Werewolf by Night.
Yeah, I heard about that.
I would have like it's got to be announced at some point, right? It's
We
coming
haven't
in a
seen
couple
anything.
months. No, nothing officially, as far as I know.
What do you guys think about the Adam Warlock? You think they might show that a little bit? Maybe the actor.
I definitely think that could be a play as well. It's been a tease many years in the making, and we haven't seen anything about it in a long time other than the trades reporting it. So that is something that, like, I do think they like to shine light on things that have already been reported and like kind of confirm them at these events. So I like the Adam Warlock call a lot.
I also think like when initially that casting was announced, everyone was like that guy, or
Yeah.
I feel like half the audience was like that guy, and the other half was like, if you watch him, he's actually really good. He can make this work, and the other half was like, I don't know about that. So I'm curious to see if he does come out, how like ripped he is in comparison to like back then when that was announced. The Marvel body transformation. I think that's going to
Yeah.
be a fun thing to look for if that is the case.
Yeah, I agree with you. And hopefully, we even get a little tease of something with the Marvels, get a little more Kamala Khan in there. And that's really what one of the things I've been wanting to talk to you with about Neebs is your content with Ms. Marvel has kind of taken your platform to another level because it's just been phenomenal. Tell the people kind of the stuff that you've been putting out there lately.
Yeah, so I was not in Marvel content. I used to make TikToks about sitcoms like Scrubs and Community. Those were the stuff that like I used to do my TikToks on. And then I saw Captain America and the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, now Captain America and the Winter Soldier, come out, and I saw the hate that that show got, and I was like, you know what, man, Kamala Khan is going to get the same amount of hate, and I need to start building up my platform so that like the people who are talking about these shows are people of color, people who are from that community. So I started building up my community, started talking about comics, started talking about all the shows, and then finally Miss Marvel came around. And I was like, all right, it's my time to shine. And one of the things that I started to do is like I know a lot of people do these Easter eggs, and like I thought something that would be really unique would be cultural Easter eggs that nobody else can do other than a Pakistani Muslim from New Jersey. So I'm like, this just fell into my lap. I had to. So every episode, I would go into it and I just break down all of the cultural references because this show does such a good job of like not like diluting the jokes and the culture. Like they don't explain stuff to everybody. It's kind of just like you get it, you get it. If you don't, you don't. And I was like, people are missing out on like 40% of the show because there's so many references and jokes in here that they're not getting. So on my platform, I started making cultural Easter eggs and showing people like what this means, what that means, why this is special, and then reviewing the episode based on like my culture and stuff and like why some things are so important. Like for example, hearing the word Allahu Akbar in a form of gratitude was something I've never heard on media, and it was so special to me. And I want to share why that's so special and how it made people feel. So I just want to share my culture with people because just like Kamala Khan, just like a lot of people growing up in the 90s or early 2000s, we've been made to feel ashamed of our culture a lot. And this was the time where like, hey, let's celebrate our culture. And I wanted to be the person who is on everyone's doorstep showing everybody, hey, this is what's so great about our culture. And one of the things that I learned is that a lot of these experiences are shared, whether you're an immigrant from Italy or whether you're from Mexico. A lot of people still have these shared experiences.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and I'm so glad that you've found this platform to be able to talk about it because like our chat right now is going wild, and they're kind of on in agreed in consensus that these are people that listen to a lot of different high quality Marvel content, and they're all agreeing that you've put out the best Ms. Marvel content out there, and so I can't say I disagree with them. It's been such a cool take you've had on it, and we've seen a bit of a different take on Kamala Khan's backstory, the character. spot
Yeah.
on to the comic. She's perfect. But the backstory obviously is different with spoilers if you haven't seen the finale, but I'm sure we all have by now. The M word, mutants. She has a
Yeah.
mutation. And the biggest kind of criticism I've seen of it has been she is she was a big fish in a small pond when she was an
Hmm.
Inhuman.
Yeah.
She was the most famous Inhuman these days. And now with mutants, obviously there's the X-Men and stuff like that. But I think Amon Vellani kind of showed as Kamala Khan, she has the star power to. She doesn't need to be a big fish in a small pond. She can be a big fish in a big pond.
Hmm.
And you mentioned yourself, it's a show about a Pakistani Muslim character from New Jersey. This is representation that hits it pretty spot on the nose for you.
Yeah.
What's it like getting to celebrate this character, and how do you feel about the new changes to this character?
Yeah, I mean, to celebrate this character is amazing because I have nieces and I have people who will grow up watching something like this. This is something I never had as a kid. Like I was so ashamed of my culture when I was younger. I was so scared that people would make fun of me, say I smell, make fun of my food. I didn't eat lunch for like a whole year because people made fun of this way my food smells, right? Because I was so insecure. And now you see people eating biryani in the middle of like a Marvel show, and they're eating like barfi, and they're eating like all these amazing food, and people are like, "What is that? I want to try that!" Like, it's so special to me to see that, and it's really really wonderful. And but as far as like the changes go, like I'm just glad she's not a Jin because that was a pretty problematic thing, and I'm really glad that that story didn't pan out. And I like look, this show isn't without criticism. I did not love the villains. I did not like the clandestines. I think that was a little clunky. I didn't love the way that all that happened. But at the end of the day, this show wasn't about them. It was about Kamala, and as long as they told her story with like respect, and they told her story with like a great deal of love, that's really all I cared about. And I think they did. I think they really did. And who knows? I mean, as long as she's not a Jin, I don't care if she's a mutant. I don't care if she's an Inhuman. I do agree that she was a big fish in a small pond. Uh, but I don't think that has to be the case with everything. Just because you're a mutant doesn't mean you have to be an X-Men, right? And I know like the X-Men are like, a lot of characters of color in the X-Men kind of get sidelined, but I still think it's a great way to maybe even have her team up with some characters. Someone I would love to see her team up with is Nightcrawler. I would love to see a religious Catholic character like Nightcrawler discuss stuff with like a Muslim character because Nightcrawler is my favorite. I love Nightcrawler, and to see him, maybe work with Kamala one day, that would be an amazing thing. And the fact that they're both mutants and they share this commonality would be great. So there's so much potential with it now.
Yeah, I agree with you. And you brought up a great point about how you have nieces who are getting to see this as kids and you didn't get that as a kid. Garrett, that's something you've been talking about on this podcast quite a bit, that fresh off the heels of Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, which is the darkest entry we've gotten into the MCU, we get a show that is made for everyone, but is targeted in representation and is also targeted to a younger audience to kind of bring us in.
And I think they executed that perfectly. I can't wait to watch it with my nieces. And you know, Neebs, what you said earlier about shared experiences is very true. My girlfriend, her mother is an immigrant from Vietnam, and she, while nothing was exactly alike, there was a lot of similarities that she would be like, "Oh, that's how my mom was to me," or that's something we did in our household. And so that was a truly amazing experience for me to be able to watch it with her and kind of be able to relate to her a little bit more. And then just on a side note, uh, something that I thought was cool about the show, in my work life, my day job, every Monday we start like our small team meeting with like a game. And right now we're doing this like team bingo thing. And like there's columns and they each have like questions and each is like a category. And one of them is, what's something that you would make for a guest? And my colleague Monsi is from India and she got asked that question. She started talking about this. She's like, oh, I would make this really awesome Indian street food. And she started talking about the ingredients and everything that goes into it, and the chickpeas and the sauces and the masalas and all this. And she's like, but it's really hot, you guys, it's really hot. And after the meeting, a couple of my colleagues were typing to her, and they're like, hey, I'm actually looking around for like Indian restaurants to try this food. And she was like, oh, it's called pani puri.
Yeah.
And I was like, no way, that's what you're talking about. Because in this show that I'm watching, Miss Marvel, it's funny because she gets made fun of because it's too hot for her. So she's kind of like too American for Pakistan and too Pakistan for America. And so
Exactly.
it was so nice to be able to bond with a colleague about that. And I hope that made her feel good and
Seen.
accepted as well, and
Yeah.
seen. Yes, exactly.
For sure.
And that's a
great
themed-
story. Thanks for sharing that.
I
It made
agree,
me
Garrett. That was very
it like
cool.
made my day. It was so happy. I was so honored to like be involved in that. I had to share it with the pod, at some point.
Love that.
And that's such a testament to what we talked about with our previous interview with Anjali, when she brought up about how something that this show is doing so wonderfully is it's giving people a window. It's like you said, Neebs, it doesn't explain every joke, it doesn't explain every situation, but it gives us a window that if there's something you want to learn more about, you now can. You, especially from Canadian education, American education, we don't hear about the partition, we don't learn about all these different celebrations that are in Muslim culture, and we now get to have that window if that's something we want to look up as well. And that's another thing, Neebs, that your content has provided you're opening that window. You're opening that window to allow us to learn more, and it's pretty awesome.
Yeah. No, it's really, really cool. There are things that just like we get that people won't like. There's this one scene where she is haggling with the street vendor and she goes 1,300, and that's because counting past 20 is really hard in Urdu. Like it's really difficult. A lot of us who are from America can't count past like 15 because the numbers become really weird. So the fact that she goes like she can't say 300, she goes like teen, which it means three, and the English word for 100 is so funny to us, and it's just really, really funny. And there's so many cool references that people don't know, like when they do the text messages and stuff. It's so pretty, but a lot of them have like cultural significance. Like when they made it with kites. Kites are a big deal. They're part of Pakistani culture. There's kite runners and kite fights, and these are things that we used to have back in the day. And the fact that they made it out of her text messages was really, really cool.
Yeah, I agree with you. The way
That's
they enhanced her art in the
Yeah.
text messages and her comics was fantastic.
I think those little details are what speak to, like, we mentioned this briefly off camera before we started recording, but there's so much love baked into the show and so much care and so much like it's truly one show that where you can watch it and find new things every single time, and stuff like that really speaks to that
Yeah.
aspect of it, and it really brings it to such another level for me personally.
Yeah.
And where the
It's
show
definitely authentic.
Yeah, absolutely. And that show, the other thing I loved as well is it is authentic because not only is the representation on screen, but it's behind the cameras in the writers' room
Right.
as well. And one of the things I liked, kind of extra as a fun MCU piece, was that the post credit scene was um, directed by the same director who's doing the Marvels. And we talked about
Right.
Nest ECC. Are we going to see a first look or something from the Marvels? Are we going to hear an announcement of Shang-Chi 2, where, of course, the Shang-Chi post-credit scene showed us Carol Danvers looking at the 10 rings, confused, wanting to investigate a little bit. And then in an earlier episode of Ms. Marvel, we saw a Ten Rings reference that never got answered. The rest of the show, we saw the 10 rings on the ground with the clandestines looking for the
Right.
bangle, and we never heard about it again. Then in the post-credit scene, the bangle starts flashing, and of course, Kamala Khan gets port keyed into her closet, and Carol Danvers comes out. Our theory is that it potentially could be involved with the 10 rings. Maybe Carol was looking into them, and that's how she got involved and that swap happened. What do you think?
I think you're onto something. I think it does have something to do with Carol investigating, and there are theories that it's the nega bands, right? There's always two of them, and Carol might have been touching one of them, and it transported her, and Kamala had it on, so it took her there, but it didn't bring the other band with her. So I don't know. I think Kamala's in space somewhere, and she has the nega bands, and I think that has reference to Captain Marvel, right? So I think there's some similarities there. So that's what I think is going to happen. And there's also like a lot of jewelry stuff going on. Even the Eternals had bracelets that they were wearing. So there's a little group of like jewelry stuff happening. They're gonna come out with the Marvel jewelry collection one day, and I think everyone's gonna buy all of this.
Powerful jewelry in the multiverse.
It all started with the gauntlet, right? The Infinity Gauntlet, and now we got bands and rings and bracelets.
For the next 15 years in the MCU movies, we're just going to see little Easter eggs of different restaurants and ice cream shots named after the different jewelries we've seen in the MCUs, obviously, since we just got that Infinity Gauntlet one.
Infinity
recently.
cones.
Infinity cones. That was the worst. I hated that. I was like, come on. But it's definitely going to be interesting how Kamala's story is tied in there, obviously, with her being a mutant and there being potential Kree ties, which obviously still make us think in human stuff. So it's going to be very interesting to see where this story takes her. But before we get to the Marvels, we get an amazing new series that at the start of the year, I ranked my #1 most anticipated show of the year, She-Hulk. And Ms. Marvel was high on my list, but I didn't expect it to become my new favorite show on Disney Plus, and it did just that. She-Hulk is my #1 most anticipated. This is something I'm expecting to go above and beyond, with potential to see some Matt Murdock and some legal drama in the MCU and some fourth wall breaking comedy. I'm excited. Neebz, where does She-Hulk rank on your excitement list for the rest of the year?
Oh man, it's super high. Like I love law shows. Like Suits, like I watched so much Suits, I thought I was a lawyer. Like it's crazy. So I'm really excited to see this, and I hope like in Daredevil, we didn't get a lot of like court cases, or at least we got a few, but they were super serious. This, I feel like it's going to be a little more lighthearted. I think it's going to be funny. I think it's going to be such a fun show, and I'm super excited. Like I like these shows because I can watch them and just feel good. Like I love The Boys, but I don't feel good after watching The Boys. Right? These shows like Miss Marvel and She-Hulk, they're like the Ted Lasso of the MCU. You watch them and you feel good about yourself. You feel great. You can watch it with your family. You're not watching Herogasm with your family. So
I just want to say, if you're the kind of person that's happy after watching The Boys, you're the kind of person that they are talking about.
Exactly. It's so funny that it doesn't connect.
Oh, you're absolutely right, because like I literally just before this, like the last hour and a half, 2 hours before us recording this pod, I'm bored, my fiance's out of town, I'm looking for something to do, and I thought, you know what? I'm going to put the first episode of Invincible back on. I'm going to rewatch Invincible. And just after the first episode, I was just like, yeah, no, they really do the damn thing. And so I just decided I needed a palate cleanser, and I rewatched the finale of Ms. Marvel. And that was the last thing I watched before this, because I just needed something to make me feel a little bit better.
The tonal shift is just jarring there.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like Miss Marvel got a little dark too when they talked about the partition. That's some heavy stuff. That's super heavy. Like I cried. I know a lot of people cry because it's linked to our history. So it's not like it's all fun and games, but like just you don't need gratuitous violence and sex to be dark. You can be dark when talking about tragedies and genocide and all this crazy stuff and still be a family show. And like for this show to do that was very difficult, especially with the partition, because there are two polarizing versions of what happened, and they towed that line of sensitivity really, really well. Where I've seen majority of Indian people pretty okay with how it came out, and Pakistani people pretty okay with how it came out. That's really difficult to do. So kudos to them.
Yeah, that's a very, very great point, because that's definitely not something that's easy to accomplish.
Yeah, absolutely not. But I think, obviously it doesn't mean as much to me, but I think that they portrayed all of that beautifully. And maybe this is a testament to the American education system, but I learned a lot. And then I researched and did some more because I was curious. And the show set that up in a way that it piqued my curiosity and I wanted to learn more. And I think that that's a beautiful thing. And I want to see more of that.
Very cool.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. And where I think She-Hulk is going to differ is I do think, actually not even differ, because Ms. Marvel did this as well for, it introduced mutants for the potential paths the MCU could take us. I think She-Hulk could give us a lot of that within these legal cases, whether it's a window into Armor Wars, a window into Daredevil and stuff like that. I think She-Hulk's going to be able to plant a lot of different seeds of stories that we maybe have kind of forgot about, like what's going on with Justin Hammer, something like that, that we could really tie in here. And the other one I'm really excited about the potential of exploring is, we know Bruce starts out as Professor Hulk, and by the end, he's probably not going to be, because in the Shang-Chi post-credit scene, we see him as Bruce with his sling back on.
Yeah.
I'm very, very curious as to how we are going to find ourselves with a rageful Hulk again in the future, because I do think that's something that's going to happen, and I think we're going to start seeing that in She-Hulk.
I would agree. I wrote down a couple of predictions for She-Hulk, and a World War Hulk tease was on there. So
that's
I
my
agree.
dream.
I know it's your dream.
Favorite Marvel comic book.
I'm looking straight into your eyes right now. You can't tell, but I'm looking directly at you because I know that's your jam.
Yeah, we might have to do our guy Damon, who usually does our comic primers with us. We might have to do a 2-part one for She-Hulk, because I'm gonna want to do the talking about some potential World War Hulk stuff. I'm gonna have to give him the boot here, and then we can bring him back in to talk to She-Hulk comics, because that is one that I am very, very excited about.
Damon, you can consider this your punishment for always bringing up the Avengers game. It's horrible. You've done it multiple times in chat today, and now you're getting the boot, buddy.
Tough one, Damon. This is your penance. You made me re-download the game. I paid like $20 to get it up. I wasted a bunch of hours, and you haven't even played with me since. So we got some beef, Damon. We got some beef, and it's gonna take me a little while to get over it.
Damon beefs.
Damon beefs, not Damon tweet, not Damon streams. This is it's time for some Damon beef. Our Neebz, do you have any other before we kind of sign off and get to our conclusion, stuff like that? Do you have any other She-Hulk or just MCU Comic-Con related predictions we could see in general?
Okay, so one of my predictions is I'm noticing a trend of like bureaucracy and government agencies like getting really involved, like in Loki, in Miss Marvel, in She-Hulk, and I wouldn't be surprised if they're slowly setting up a Civil War II story. And I wouldn't be surprised if in the Marvels at the end we see a fallout with Monica and Kamala with Carol, and have that set that up. I think that would be really, really cool. That would be amazing for me to see.
I love that.
That would be really cool. That's been a unanswered thing that I've been wanting to know for a long time. Like, somebody brings up Carol in WandaVision, and Monica goes like, "Nah, Wanda's stronger," just without hesitation. And I want to know why. How'd you go from Auntie Carol to that feeling? I'm very, very excited. That's something I always forget about with the Marvels is I absolutely adore Brie Larson as Carol Danvers, Captain Marvel. Didn't love the first movie. Didn't hate it by any means, but I love everything in the MCU, and it's on my lower tier of lists. Now I'm just so excited to see kind of Carol get a redemption movie and just get a top tier MCU movie. And now you add Kamala Khan, who I adore, Ms. Marvel, my favorite series. I always forget that Monica Rambeau, who was probably my favorite newcomer of 2021, is also going to be starring in this series, in this movie. And so I'm happy you brought that up, Neebz, because I cannot wait for some more Monica Rambeau.
I'm gonna talk to Yelena and tell her that you said that, because
Can I be honest with you? Is Yelena's third?
Wow.
I love Yelena, and she's third. And
I thought she was your number one.
She was at a point, and then it's Maria and it's Kate Bishop, and Yelena takes a 3. Xai Ling's number 4. I guess Shang-Chi and Xiling might be tied for number 4, but Xiling I find cooler, even though Shang-Chi I would rather see more Shang-Chi content than Xiling content, but I find the character of Xiling cooler, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
We'll rock with it.
Just because I'm more interested in the story of like a person powerfully wielding the 10 rings as opposed to the organized crime aspect of the 10 rings.
So where's Kamala on these rankings?
For 2022, she's number 1 right now by far.
Are we going by year or are we going by,
it's by year.
phase?
It's by year.
Okay, it seems like we're twisting the rules as we go, but we'll give it to you.
Well, I'm on the spot, so I'm gonna keep making up the rules on the spot. But if we want to do an official rankings, I think that that could make for a good episode. This was a quick one. We probably could have slipped in a rankings game type episode, but we've been so busy with planning the live stream and these interviews we got coming up that weren't able to mix it into the schedule. But Neebz, thanks so much for joining us today. Like I said, I watched your content and I was in awe, and I thought I need to get this guy on the podcast because he is absolutely phenomenal.
No, I appreciate it, man. I appreciate you guys giving people like me and people of color a voice on your podcast. It means a lot to us.
Absolutely. Like that's an important thing for us too. We kind of started our pod. There's 3 of us, and the two of us on camera are white guys, and we are always preaching representation and the importance of it. And then we realized, well, the 2 guys on camera are just 2 straight white dudes. So that's been an important thing for us as we build Agents of Fandom and grow, is to make sure not only that's included in the people that we bring on, but included in our staff,
Yeah,
our
man.
writers, and our content creators as well.
That's no easy task. It's a lot of toxicity out there. So to see people like you guys really is great to see.
You got a spot whenever you want to come on, man. I'm sure I
might
speak
take
for
you
all
up
of us.
on that, man. I'll
Please do,
definitely-
please do. This has been one of the most riveting conversations we've had, and the most heartfelt. And yeah, it's up there. And I'm gonna cherish this one for a while. So I thank you for that.
I agree completely. And they always kind of say if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. And that's one of the reasons I've enjoyed this podcast so much, is I just get to sit here and go and just watch and listen to the things you're saying, because it's informative. And I respect, as a teacher myself, I taught grade 7 last year. I'm teaching grade 5, 6 this upcoming year. I respect so much the ability to tell new information and do it in a very engaging way, and that's something you've locked down. So whether it's to guest on the podcast or join the team, I echo what Garrett said. We'd love to have you.
Yeah, man, absolutely, man. This is awesome. I'll be back anytime. And listen, we all have our blind spots, right? So it's not. It's just, as long as we have the right people in the rooms when we're talking about the certain subject, that's all that matters. Because we all have our blind spots.
That's a really great way of putting it. I like that a lot. And thank you for those kind words.
Yeah, man, no problem. Thanks, guys.
And so hopefully we'll definitely get Neebz on the podcast again in the future. But we have a lot of other phenomenal guests as well coming this weekend. So stay tuned for our San Diego Comic-Con live show announcement from 4 p.m. Pacific to 7 p.m. Pacific on Saturday. We're going to be announcing a lot of our awesome guests tomorrow. Neebz is being a good friend. He's attending a wedding, so he's not going to be able to join us. But Neebz, where can the people find you on socials?
Yeah, absolutely. So I go by WatchwithNeebz. You can find me everywhere: TikTok, Twitter, Instagram. And then I also have a podcast on YouTube called Salam Nerds. We do every TV show, every movie. We just recap, review, talk about it, bring on people who are experts and stuff. We have a really cool podcast called, Are the Mandalorians Really Hijabis? Where they were, because they can't take off their helmets. We have a podcast about the partition. We brought on a psychologist who did her dissertation on intergenerational trauma. So we have some cool podcasts. So if you like that kind of stuff, yeah, man, check us out at Salam Nerds Podcast.
Very cool. I'm adding that to my automatic downloads tonight. I got ADHD. I might forget, so I'm saying it out loud so that there are people who can hold me accountable so that I don't forget about it. Make sure you check out that. And of course, you can find the Agents of Fandom anywhere you get your podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you follow, and all of that jazz. You can find the Agents of Fandoms on all of our socials. We're going to be doing tons of live giveaways on Saturday for the show. And to be eligible, you're going to have to be following our TikTok page and our Instagram page at Agents of Fandom. And then, of course, our Twitter is the only different one, just at Agents Fandom. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us for this live show. We're going to have a great interview. We're not done talking Ms. Marvel yet. We got Anjali Bhamani back on next week for the podcast. But, of course, we will see you before that as well for our live show, San Diego Comic-Con. On behalf of myself and my great co-host Garrett and our amazing guest Neebz, and of course our wonderful wizard of a producer Ruben, who is just making cooler and cooler graphics for these streams each and every episode. That'll do it. Thank you for joining us. Peace.
Peace.